So another fighter that we got an opportunity to see that was very important was Alex Pereira, and he was fighting Bruno Silva in what I thought was a good stylistic matchup, and also I felt was supposed to be a showcase to the world to say this is why Alex Pereira can end up fighting Israel Adesanya. Do you believe he went out and did enough this week in the fight against Bruno Silva to continue to build the expectation and kind of the fascination with him that he will be the guy to challenge for the middleweight championship?
You know what's crazy is, like, I can judge Ankalaev so harsh, but I can then raise up Pereira in the next breath, right? Even though the performance wasn't as dominant. Pereira got taken down.
Right.
He showed that there's holes, but in those moments, right, in those situations where he had to deal with adversity, he showed that he is becoming a more well-rounded mixed martial artist. Because even if he ain't defending every takedown, he's getting back to his feet or he's surviving off of his back. There's wins even in the moments where you struggle. But this kid is impressive. Now, we have seen many high-level strikers come to mixed martial arts, RC, and struggle. Even the great Clarissa Shields, right? Clarissa Shields, phenomenal. Yeah. I'm a massive fan of Clarissa. I think she is an absolute savage. And if you have not watched her show on ESPN Plus, her history and the fights that she have gone through to be where she is today, do yourself a favor and go and watch Clarissa Shields and her upbringing. But even her, when she got taken down, RC, she struggled. She lost. She's already lost. Pereira's in that same type of boat because of his kickboxing background, but he survived. And he did enough to get his hand raised, and now the journey continues. So it's crazy that I can be so hard on Ankalaev, but almost be like Pereira's kind of like my son, you know, and I'm trying to make him feel better.
Yeah. Well, I think everything's about perspective. We're looking at Pereira and where he is in his career compared to Ankalaev, and also how early it is for him in the UFC, and seeing the progression. You know, even in some of those takedown attempts by Silva later on in the third round, being able to sprawl, keep the fight on its feet, and actually land and connect with some great strikes. I thought that showed that he could fight through adversity and still finish fights strong. And so I did come away very impressed with who he was. And also after the fight, for him to call out Jared Cannonier. Now, Jared Cannonier has bigger fish to fry right
he's
now.
fighting for the belt.
But I do, but I do understand what he's saying. He's like, right now, I can't really call out Izzy, but I'll call out the guy right beneath him, and then maybe I land at Robert Whittaker. Maybe I land at Marvin Vettori. How do you feel about this call out after the fight?
Ryan, I just told you, again, we got to go back to Ankalaev, right? Quelling expectations, kind of throwing a little fire, like water on the fire, and going, I'm not going to call out anybody crazy now because of the type of fight I just had. But then Pereira gets up and does the exact opposite, or he does the exact opposite right before, where he goes and calls out Jared Cannonier, a guy who's obviously fighting for the championship. Like, what are we doing here, Ryan Clark? Like, what are we doing here? Are we just playing? Are we just guessing?
Hey, man, you reach for the moon and you land on the stars. I love it. And the other thing, though, it shows that this dude has probably an unrealistic confidence. I think when you have the experiences that he's had and the success that he's had against Israel Adesanya in kickboxing, you feel like you belong. And also the way that he's been talked about in the UFC, the way that he's been propped up in the UFC, already having the high expectations. Why not? All they can say is no, DC. DC, it's like when you used to walk into the high school dance and you saw the prettiest girl in school. Why should you be scared to ask her to dance? All she could say is no. And then you ask her friend. And so he's like, I might not get Jared, but I might get Brunson. And so I'm not mad at my guy at all, DC.
Dude, I mean, of course, I do agree with what you're saying, but I mean, fight somebody in the top 15, Pereira. Fight somebody in the top 10. Like, I get it. Shoot for the stars, but man, shooting for the stars is anyone with a number next to their name at this point. But again, it's the wins over Izzy in kickboxing that gives him this sense of invincibility, because he's watching a guy that he knocked out run roughshod over the division, become a megastar, and make tons and tons of money. So ultimately, he's trying to find the shortest path to trying to get to where he feels like he belongs. So hats off to him to that. But come on, man, let's be a little bit more realistic in the way that we're approaching our journey through the UFC's rankings, because if he gets in front of one of these guys that just wrestles him over and over, one that actually can wrestle, he might really struggle. And we saw that in moments over the course of the fight this weekend.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.